妈妈你听。
好啊。哦，是这首歌呀。
哦，你知道这首歌吗？
这是一首很流行的闽南语童谣。
Gacha is a genre that gets a bit of a bad reputation within the rest of the gaming sphere, seen as being low quality, pay to win, and exploitative. While many of these criticisms towards gacha games are certainly valid, I feel the stigma towards gacha games is a limited view that overlooks what many of them are able to offer as pieces of media. Gacha games are as effective, if not even more effective than other game genres at creating immersive settings to present a compelling story through a range of complex characters. And their typical model of being a live service game allows for the creative flexibility for developers to continue improving upon the story. Girls Frontline, Limbus Company, Genshin Impact are just a few names in a growing genre of high-quality gacha games that are able to appeal to a wide audience and present themes that resonate with players. However, there is one gacha game in particular that I believe goes above and beyond in its efforts to solidify gacha games' legitimacy amongst other games. Arknights is a tower defense game that was released in 2019 for China, then internationally in 2020. Developed by Shanghai-based company Hypergriff, the game features a massive in-game universe that is populated with a variety of diverse countries, character races, and cultures. The game's universe is told through a variety of mediums, from visual novel-style text reading, illustrated artworks, to fully 3D animated videos. Many of the countries within Arknights' universe contain clear parallels to real-world countries from their visual appearance to elements of their in-game culture. One of these countries of Arknights' universe is the country of Yan, which represents China and many facets of Chinese culture. The representation of Chinese culture from Yan is most apparent in the annual Lunar New Year game events that center around the fictional country. Most recently, the international Arknights community was able to experience the 2024 Lunar New Year event, Hear a People Sows. The event includes so many interesting and fun references that convey a lot of Chinese culture behind it, varying from surface-level appearances to the most subtle of details. So in this video, I want to talk about how a gacha game has empowered Chinese culture, bringing it into the modern era, and how it shares the rich culture of one of the world's oldest civilizations to a new audience. Agriculture is arguably the most important development in human history and is closely related to culture. Roman orator Cicero used the agricultural metaphor to coin the term culture, describing how culture is the cultivation of the human soul. So it is quite fitting how an entire event dedicated to agriculture would be a perfect place to explore some of the culture of China. Hear a People Sows takes place in the northern region of Yan in the city of Dahuang, a major agricultural city that is referred to as the breadbasket of Yan, due to it being the largest producer of grain within Yan. Immediately, this is a reference to the northeastern region of China, which is one of the country's largest and most productive agricultural regions. The name Dahuang itself translates into Great Wilderness and refers to geographical features within the region. One of the most direct references to Chinese culture within the event is with Shen Nong. Shen Nong is a mythological hero and deity within Chinese culture who is said to have taught the ancient Chinese people their agricultural practices. In addition to teaching agriculture in China, Shen Nong is also said to have been credited with inventing a variety of agricultural technologies, including the hoe, plow, axe, and irrigation systems. Within Hear a People Sows, there are two characters who certainly do reflect the mythical character of Shen Nong. Shen Nong, who quite literally shares the same name and deity status of the actual Shen Nong, and one of the main characters of the event, Shu, being in a similar position of a mythical being whose powers revolve around agriculture. Her role as an agricultural researcher further adds to her connection with the character Shenlong. Staying on the references to Chinese agriculture in regards to Shu, her design features many small details and symbols related to Chinese culture. She carries a luban lock, a puzzle of interlocking blocks embellished with ornamental patterns. The luban lock is also similar to mortise and tenon joints found throughout traditional Chinese architecture, such as the dougong. Also a feature of the architecture in the buildings and interior design of the event. Plus, as demonstrated by the event UI and promotional material, it does make for a really cool vector pattern for graphic designs. Another reference we see throughout the media for Here a People Sows is to the Wu Gu, or 5 grains, a group of crops that were important to ancient China and held significant sacred value. So much so that they were seen as the crops that permitted agrarian society and civilization itself. It's still debated which crops actually comprise the 5 crops. However, most sources consistently mention 3 crops in particular: millet, wheat, and rice. All of these crops are an integral part of Chinese agriculture even up to the modern day, with their cultivation found throughout the agricultural regions of China. The 3 of them, along with soybeans, account for more than 90% of food production within the country. Yet, when you mention China, there's really only one grain that comes to mind for most people: rice. Given the channel's name, I think it would be appropriate to take a bit of time to discuss why rice is one of the most important grains in Chinese history. Rice is a cereal grain that is the seed of the Orza genus of plants from the grass family, and is a staple food that 50% of the world's population depends on. Some properties of rice that makes it an excellent staple food is its high productivity, ability to be stored for long periods of time, and reduced preparation required for consumption, unlike some other grains like wheat. It was in China that rice was first domesticated along the Yangtze River basin roughly 9,000 years ago, where it would go on to spread throughout southern China around 3000 to 2500 BCE. The wet tropical climate of the south was ideal for rice cultivation. However, rice's need to be submerged while growing was less than ideal for the mountainous south. It's because of that, farmers created the iconic scenery of terraced rice fields that has come to define the image of Chinese agriculture. Within Here a People Sows, these winding rice paddies carved alongside the towering mountains are often incorporated in the depiction of Dahuang, the setting of the event, evoking the imagery of China's own majestic rice terraces, such as those at Longji, Honghe Hani, and Jiabang. They're also featured within Shu's Elite 2 artwork as well. Even the actual game is a reflection of rice's impact on Chinese agriculture, with players playing on maps with flooded farmland, having to manage pollution and irrigation of such tiles. Unpolluted farmland provides a healing buff to the player's characters standing in them, a fun, subtle way to symbolize the importance of such land to an agrarian society. But Arknights goes even further with the references to Chinese agriculture by not just basing Dahuang off of the scenery of China South, but by referencing a specific province within China due to its historical importance to Chinese agriculture. In 1012 CE, a severe drought occurred along the Yangtze and Huai River valleys, and in the Zhejiang rice-growing areas. The emperor at the time, Emperor Zedong, knew about a drought-resistant, highly productive variety of rice called champa rice that would help combat the effects of the drought. Champa rice had already been introduced to China prior to 1012, however it was not widely grown throughout the empire. Thus, Emperor Zedong sent envoys to procure seeds of champa rice, and the instruction on their cultivation from the province that had pioneered their cultivation of it in China, Fujian. Fujian was a major agricultural province of the Song dynasty, not only supplying a large amount of rice, but also providing the empire with sugarcane, fruits, and another one of China's most famous crops, tea. Furthermore, Fujian, along with the rest of southeastern China, was greatly involved in the development of Chinese agricultural technologies and practices, spreading them across to other regions of China. When we typically think about culture, we think about the art, the literature, the clothes. Yet, it's no less important to humble ourselves with what has made all of these possible. Agriculture is what enabled us humans to settle down and do things that aren't necessary to our physical survival. It was the catalyst for millennia of human exploration, exploring how we can improve our lives with knowledge, the beauty of the natural and human world, and what our identities are as people within a society. Culture was born out of agriculture. 人生得意须尽欢，莫使金针空对月。天生我材必有用，千金散尽还复来。烹羊宰牛且为乐，会须一饮300杯。Poetry holds a great deal of importance within Chinese culture. A large part of this is due to its close association with two of Imperial China's dynasties, the Tang and the Song dynasties. These two dynasties are widely regarded as Imperial China's Golden Age, from which many of China's greatest poetic works are found. Furthermore, it was Tang poetry that would be one of the first major Chinese cultural exports, exported during the dynasty to other Asian countries like Japan and Korea, then to European countries from the 18th century onwards. Chinese poetry embodies one of the high points for Chinese culture, and it's why it's so beloved by many within China. So it isn't surprising that such would be the subject of one of Arknights' most distinct reference to traditional Chinese culture, with the character Ling. Ling references Chinese poetry on numerous levels. For instance, her distinct character trait of drinking is a direct reference to Tang Dynasty Chinese poet Li Bai. And speaking of Li Bai, the name of Ling's event, Invitation to Wine, is a direct reference to Li Bai's poem of the same name. Her skills also allude to other poems from Li Bai, as well as those from another Chinese poet, Xin Qiji. Even small details, such as the bamboo pieces on the underside of her jacket in her artworks, are a reference to bamboo slips, which were the primary method for written documents during the early age of Imperial China. And the attention to detail with Arknights' characters referencing aspects of Chinese culture extends to other Guyanese characters, particularly with the rest of the Sui siblings. Dusk represents inkwash painting, Chongye represents martial arts, Shu, Chinese agriculture, and Nian, metalworking. If you're interested in many of the specific references these characters make to Chinese culture and history, I highly suggest going through each of their trivia pages on the Arknights wiki. And the same applies with Arknights events, particularly with the Chinese New Year's events besides Here A People Sows. Similar attention to detail was given to the artwork, music, and graphic design to create a setting that references their respective geographic locations within China, all while Hyperglyph is still able to maintain Arknights' visual direction. And often we see many of these event stories contain themes that resonate within the Chinese community, containing references to classical Chinese literature, traditional Chinese beliefs, as well as incorporating modern-day discourse within Chinese society. Even non-Sui characters that do not explicitly reference Chinese culture or history still contain references through their stories, abilities, artworks, and voice lines. Chen, 捉了, Lin Yisha, 秋白, FF Eater, Snow Saint, Li, Jackie, and so many more reference traditional and modern aspects of Chinese culture in more subtle means. Not only is the way Arknights references aspects of Chinese culture in their unique characters interesting and well integrated into the game, but also ensures that there isn't a quote-unquote Chinese type character. There is no one single character trait, character design, or character story that defines whether a character reflects Chinese culture. It is a diverse makeup of characters that represents a part of China's diverse culture from different perspectives. And perhaps one of the most distinct areas where most people might be able to notice the game's references to China is with the outfits of the characters. The Qipao, or Zhongshan, is one of the most recognizable symbols of Chinese culture, despite how relatively new it is, being born in the first half of the 20th century. Compared to traditional Chinese clothing of Imperial China, the Qipao was a mix of Han, Manchu, and Western influences. The Mandarin collar, overlapping right side, high side slits, and shorter dress length became defining features of this new dress. The result was a dress that maintained Chinese tradition while embracing China's new future and symbolizing the liberalization of women within Chinese society. Given the elegant beauty of the Qipao, it's no surprise how it would end up in depictions of Chinese women in media, becoming a staple of video games for the recognizable quote-unquote traditional Chinese look. Arknights has its fair share of Qipao outfits, with Chen, Dusk, and Yan sporting the iconic dress in some of their outfits. Yet even as Qipao is only representative of Chinese clothing from a specific era, it has largely remained in the West as the default Chinese dress. Furthermore, the long-standing issues of portrayal of Asian women from Orientalism have exploited the Qipao to just be an overt way of over-sexualizing female characters. Additionally, I feel that the over-sexualization of female characters is further exacerbated by Qipao-esque designs, clothing designs that borrow features from Qipao yet stray far from any sort of meaningful representation of the culture behind it. This is not to say that I disagree with the use of Qipao to represent Chinese culture within a game. Qipao is still a definite representation of Chinese culture and holds a great deal of significance to many Chinese people. But I believe that only portraying characters wearing Qipao only gives a limited view into the rich diversity of Chinese clothing, both traditional and more modern clothing styles. One way to open up that viewpoint is to include more representations of Hanfu. Hanfu is a general term of clothing styles that have been worn throughout Imperial China up to the Ming Dynasty. Great examples of outfits that reflect the essence of classical Chinese Hanfu include Lin's Heavenly Mirage, Nine-Colored Deers, A Silvern Caress on the Flow of Time, and Ling's It Does Wash the String. There are also examples of outfits that are a more contemporary take on traditional Chinese clothing. Some of my favorite examples include Shu's default outfit, Jie Yun's Away from Dust, and Qiu Bai's Courtesy, blending in many elements of traditional Hanfu while mixing it up with more modern clothing design. And while not exactly a part of the clothing designs featured within Arknights, I also think what makes many of these character outfits feel Chinese is how the surrounding artwork around the characters feature many references to Chinese culture. This is how some of the outfits that incorporate features of traditional Chinese clothing still feel like they are respecting the culture they're inspired by. Arknights' diversity in the styles of Chinese clothes its artists depict the game's characters in effectively showcases the beauty of Chinese clothing from throughout the ages, whether it be the elegance of the Qipao, the grand splendor of Hanfu, or the trendy fusion of contemporary takes on traditional Chinese clothing. They are all part of the vibrant history of Chinese clothing, spanning across millennia. It is my opinion that Arknights still is the gacha with the best representation of Chinese clothing in a way that respects the culture it comes from while still creating stunning fashion styles. 宁卖子中田，不忘子中言. I'd rather sell my ancestors' land than forget my ancestors' words. This is a Hakka proverb that symbolizes the significance of teachings passed on from prior generations and its importance to cultural identity. Even when people migrate from their homeland, the customs that they follow transcends borders. In particular, the proverb has been interpreted by some to signify the importance of one specific aspect of culture: language. Language is a cornerstone of human culture. Different languages are developed among different societies to communicate their culture's customs and beliefs. It's one of the first aspects of culture you will be taught when you are young by your parents or by others. For those of us who are born into immigrant families like me, the emphasis that was placed on learning our mother language was to help preserve our cultural identity. Language holds a deep connection to culture. Chinese as a language is incredibly diverse. Aside from Mandarin Chinese, most people likely already know about one of Chinese's other dialects, Cantonese, given its cultural exportation through the height of Cantopop and Hong Kong cinema during the 80s and 90s. Yet Cantonese only scratches the surface of China's linguistic diversity. Beyond Cantonese, there are other dialects of Chinese that aren't mutually intelligible, such as the Wu, Min, and Hakka varieties. And within Mandarin Chinese, there are countless more dialects that are specific to a region or even a single city. Arknights is fantastic when it comes to multilingual support, offering Japanese, Mandarin Chinese, Korean, and English voice lines for its characters. But for certain characters, Hypergriff has also offered region-specific Chinese dialects in addition to Mandarin Chinese voice lines. In some cases, an additional voice actor is hired to perform the region-specific dialects. The inclusion of regional Chinese dialects served to further ground the characters in Arknights' world-building and showcase their diversity. For example, Chen and Hoshiguma have Cantonese as their regional dialect.
博士，瞓着咗？一啲緊張感都冇。
博士，睡着了。真没紧张感。
啊？冇嘢，我喺度做你嘅守衛啫。
没什么，我就是在这里守着你而已。
Both of them hail from Longmen, a city that references Hong Kong with its dense neon cityscape and kick-ass police officers. Ling's regional dialect is the Guangzhou dialect.
云峦波涛，千里苦路。江山故人恶，万秋行舟。云峦波涛，千里苦路。江山故人我，万秋行舟。
A Central Chinese dialect that is found in the Shanxi province. The province was the epicenter of the Tang dynasty, home to its capital Xi'an, and the dynasty is widely regarded as the golden age of Chinese poetry. Tongye features the Wuhan dialect.
来客群尽，苍烂秋心呐！
来去春景，怅然秋心。
Spoken in the Hubei province, it, along with the bordering Henan province to the north, are deeply rooted in the history of Chinese martial arts. Shu's regional dialect is Hokkien.
東升烈條西江月，春寒有霧黑寒晴。東升日頭西降月，春寒有雨夏寒晴。
From the southeastern parts of the Fujian province, which we previously covered the region's significance to Shu's agricultural motifs. Dusk's regional dialect is the Wu dialect, specifically that of the Suzhou dialect.
夢日人生，夢日灑絕。人夜嘅一困，為得困覺至幾個千年呢？夢如人生，夢如長卷。人這一睡，會睡過幾個千年呢？
Suzhou and the surrounding Jiangnan region is closely related to Chinese ink painting, especially during its height from the Song dynasty onwards, and Nian's regional dialect is the Sichuan dialect.
你咋个又睡错了？起来起来，陪我去买点东西。搞快搞快！
你怎么又睡着了？起来起来，陪我去买点东西。快点快点！
A region that is significant for China's Bronze Age smithing culture at locations such as Sanxingdui and Jinsha, and shares Nian's love for spicy foods with the region's cuisine. It is actually because of these characters' regional dialects that we're able to pinpoint specifically which regions these characters are meant to be representing. While many other aspects of Chinese culture referenced by Arknights are quite widespread throughout the country, from their appreciation to poetry to traditional clothing styles, the dialects are what can truly set the regions and even individual cities apart from each other. As China has become more and more interconnected both within its own borders and with the rest of the world, some of these distinct regional dialects are being spoken less by the younger generation, lost along with the older generation. Yet Chinese culture is formed from the beliefs, the practices, and the arts of a diverse people across a diverse land. When we lose a language, we lose a part of that culture. Language is truly one of the strongest connections to our cultural identity, and that's why preserving it is so important. I would argue that Arknights is one of the best examples of media that incorporates Chinese dialects. It's able to both showcase the diversity of the dialects and respect the regional culture behind them, while still incorporating them into the game in engaging ways. And because of this, Arknights is able to not only digitally preserve such vital pieces of Chinese culture, but is also able to spread awareness of them to a wider audience, especially towards the non-Chinese Arknights community. If you haven't already, I really do suggest you give the regional Chinese dialects a try. All of the Sui siblings have theirs, and most of the Yanni 6-star operators do as well. It's another way to further immerse yourself in the world of Arknights, and hopefully you will have an appreciation of the efforts of the voice actors and Hypergriff, as well as experience more of China's diverse culture. There are so many more examples of how Arknights has been able to represent Chinese culture in a new light towards a new audience that I have yet to cover in this video. Of course, Arknights' highly praised music production has resulted in a diverse range of music that blends traditional instrumentation and vocals with modern sounds. There are many themes within stories that resonate with the beliefs and values of Chinese people, providing a reflection of modern-day Chinese society. Even specific writing styles follow those of classical Chinese literature and poetry, yet they are unfortunately lost on the international community due to less than ideal localization by Yostar. It's clear that the developer of Arknights, Hypergriff, is willing to put in the additional effort and resources into creating a game that does more than just tell a story within its setting. It has created a means to reach out to a wide audience and bring attention to what they believe in. Hypergriff has collaborated with the WWF, Chinese National Geographic, and a museum to preserve and spread awareness of the history and wildlife of China. And that's not to mention the countless of other charitable activities that the company has been involved in. It's a meme at this point that Hypergriff is literally the embodiment of Rhodes Island. But beyond that, I feel that these are just the action of a company that truly cares about the community it is a part of, and wishes for their rich culture to be cherished by generations to come. When I asked Chinese Arknights players how they felt about Arknights' representation of Chinese culture, many of them responded positively to how Arknights reflects Chinese culture. A lot of them gave me paragraph-length and sometimes paragraphs, plural, explanations on how they felt Arknights well represented Chinese culture. Reading the passion from the responses, I realized truly how much Arknights means to the experiences of Chinese players. I do hope for the future that there is more support for allowing the international community to understand and experience many of the deeper meanings within Arknights' stories. This video was never intended to be a comprehensive review of all the ways Arknights represents Chinese culture. But what I do hope to leave you with is a new appreciation of how representation of culture can be achieved in so many different ways. From the visually stunning to the abstract and subtle. That is the beauty of video games. Chinese game developers are the ones that have risen to the top of the highly accessible genre of gacha games, pushing the boundaries for quality further and further. It is from this continuing growth that I hope for more game developers to expand their representation of Chinese culture and introduce the international community to more of the lesser-known parts of China and its people. But no matter what the future lies for the state of the gacha game landscape, I can always continue walking towards tomorrow, knowing that Arknights will still continue to share what makes me proud of who I am.